Hello and welcome to the 13th night of Ravenloft Fright Nights, and happy Halloween! I am Locke, my pronouns are they, he, and I will be your wereraven today. And I know that it is shocking that one, I also have a guest again today, but two, you've seen my forehead for the first time. But the important part is the first part of that sentence. So, special guest who's helping me celebrate the holiday. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name is Monty. My pronouns are he, they. You can find me on TikTok at DoubtfireOfficial or everywhere else, doubtfire.ofcl, because people are lame and they don't have long enough usernames. Um, I'm the
Correct.
Wizard of Whimsy and I'm your Halloween expert today.
Mm-hmm. Your Halloween expertise meets my Ravenloft obsession.
Thank God.
And if you, for some reason, are not looking at the video and playing us in the background, we are both delightfully dressed up in the Halloween spirit.
Is it delightful? I'm
I,
giggling.
which I think means it's delightful,
Okay. We're full of delight.
full of delight. So the concept of this episode, which you can probably see from the title as well as the thumbnail, but is in the Halloween spirit, we're going to talk about some of the domains of dread and how we think they would celebrate Halloween in those different settings and the different, horror setups that they have there. But to start us off, since we're going to be using obviously the traditions of real world celebrations of this holiday, I'm going to pass it over to the Halloween expert who's done so much beautiful research to get us clued in about how did Halloween get started and what do people do for it.
Yeah. Halloween is a really interesting holiday, actually. It's primarily an American holiday. Some countries celebrate it, but not as much as we do. And especially in kind of all of the Americas, North and South here. Halloween as a whole gets a majority of its traditions from the Celtic pagan holiday of Samhain. Sa- Ooh, Celtic words are hard, folks.
Correct, yeah.
I think it's Samhain. Um,
I think that's correct. I could
yeah.
be so wrong.
Some of the aspects of it, though, are more similar to sort of traditional Roman holidays of harvest that are usually attributed to the Roman goddess Pomona. And those usually involve like celebrations of harvest and fruit trees. And the name of Halloween itself actually comes from the Catholic tradition of All Saints' Day, which All Saints' Day takes place on November 1st, and then All Souls' Day on the 2nd, but All Hallows' Eve happens before All Saints' Day. So, kind of a weird reduction there where we went from All Hallows' Eve to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the information that I just said is from Regina Hansen, who's a professor at Boston University. So I've got all my sources cited. It's hard to say. Sources cited if you guys want to take a look at any of this stuff. But Hansen also credits a lot of the pagan traditions to the Irish immigrants to America, bringing a lot of their seasonal cultural practices with them and having those kind of be commonplace now. So yeah, Halloween just overall throughout history became more and more like kid friendly. So like people dressing up in kind of more fun costumes instead of like archaic and creepy costumes. It definitely came about because of capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
as companies could see that they could profit and sell candy and make it marketable, essentially. But I think a lot of the appeal for Halloween in the traditional sense was feeling like a thrill, feeling close to kind of the other side. So there's some psychological reasons for that. I think people in general enjoy facing death and that concept and like this other world concept because we can feel sort of existential or like that thrill of adrenaline and fear. And then just, I think we kind of pack bond over that. Like the concept of like roasting weenies around a fire and telling scary stories or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you can find more about that at the British psychological study, uh, that I've got here. But, yeah, there's a lot of sort of traditional celebrations that we do around Halloween time. A lot of these are from The Fantasy and Folklore of All Hallows Eve from the Library of Congress, American Folk Life Center. So check that out. From Samhain, the primary celebrations have to do with like lighting bonfires. Like I said, weenies around a campfire, playing pranks on people, parades, and then also just like masks and costumes. It was like a traditional practice to like fool the spirits and the fae into believing that they are not humans. And that's also kind of where we get like the concept of like the veil between life and death thins on Halloween, which I think is really common.
Yeah, I think so.
And then from Pomona we get, of course, apples, leaf and tree symbolism, and like harvest celebration meals, kind of like Thanksgiving-ish time. And then All Hallows Eve, from the Catholic sense, we get a lot of, again, the thinning of the veil. For some reason, it's very like spiritually tied in the Catholic Church. And then also calling out to spirits, because All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day, they like call out to the dead. I don't know what the Catholic people are doing, but apparently this is something they're doing. I opted out before I got that far.
Wild to be.
But yeah,
did not know that.
They call out to spirits, the people who have passed, and like, I don't know what they're asking them, but they do it. Okay. And then in like Europe specifically, for the Catholic Church, they've started a tradition of leaving food on doorsteps for passing spirits on All Hallows Eve. So, you know, more you know. I would also be remiss to not mention Dia de los Muertos, of course. Sort of very popular in the United States, but also mainly in South America, and kind of a lot of cultures down there. They have similar, if not the same, celebrations related to Dia de los Muertos. So it shares a lot of the same Catholic influence. Those darn conquistadors. They came through and gave a lot of that All Saints Day influence, but it is really honestly unique because the Aztec people had their own kind of celebration of Halloween before it was a concept that we knew. So they used to celebrate the Lady of the Dead that they had. Oh, I should have practiced this. Mictecuatl, Queen of Micteclan. I'm butchering this. But it was her job to return to the land of the living to check in on the bones and the spirits that had passed, because it was her job to guard them so people wouldn't, I guess, steal the bones, which is sick. Bone guardian. She was later replaced with La Catrina, a skeletal woman she's attributed to a specific Mexican cartoonist by the name of Jose Guadalupe Posada. He kind of created her. She's just like a skeletal woman in a big floppy like European sun hat, and he made her to make fun of kind of people who embrace their European traditions over their like indigenous heritage. And she just got really popular and kind of took over as the mascot, kind of like how Santa Claus Coca-Cola is like the new Santa Claus, you know?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But her whole thing was that like she kind of represented that in death we're all the same, right? There's a lot of traditions associated specifically with Dia de los Muertos that is really sick, and if you haven't practiced any of these, I highly recommend you get out there and get involved in your community and do some of these things because they're very fun. The first one that I'm going to go over is papel picado, which is just like a little, you've probably seen them hanging up. They're little square tissue paper banners that have been cut like a snowflake, you might understand, into like different scenes. They do those to honor like different scenes. Calaveras, which are sugar skulls. They're like decorated to represent like people who have passed, not necessarily like the people that you're making them for, but it just like might be you like a certain painter, like you got a Frida Kahlo one and she's got a unibrow or whatever. And then they've got like a lot of like skull masks, face paint. I'm sure you've seen like the like very highly decorated skull symbols that they have a lot of. And then just the general practice of like visiting your loved ones' grave site, having an ofrenda where you put pictures of your loved ones to remember them and things that they might enjoy. So like food offerings, grooming supplies, personal possessions, even like poems or art that you've made them. And then it's also like tradition and practice to have large family meals, even including like larger communities. And a lot of times people hold those in the actual graveyards themselves so that their like spiritual family can still be there and practice. And then they do especially like heavily on the like Catholic um All Saints Day on November 1st. They do a lot of celebrations specific to the children who have already passed, which is
Mhm.
really sweet. And then on November 2nd, they do more of a celebration for the adults that have passed, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
So that's a little peek into your real world traditions here.
Very, very interesting. And you did so good.
Thank you.
I appreciate the work. And yeah, so that's obviously going to be like the basis for some of what we're going to suggest of how to celebrate Halloween in some of our fantasy fiction horror worlds that we're going to be talking about today. I think we have to start with the one that we all already know. We gotta start with Barovia, the domain of dread that Curse of Strahd takes place in, where Strahd is the ruler, our favorite and most beloved vampire man. One that you are most familiar with as well, as you are a player at one of my tables. Would you like to start with some of your suggestions for Barovia? And I'll add some
Yeah,
stuff in as we go.
I would love to. So, kind of my thought in how I would want the people of Barovia to celebrate is initially just like a light sharing candle based ritual. I think it would be just kind of a really beautiful metaphor, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the time and resources to produce a candle, typically made of like animal fat or something. So, like, it would take like a sacrifice, literally, and the symbolism of like burning up precious resources rather than like using it for something more practical is really lovely. And also just the concept of like coming together as a community and like sharing the light in the darkness is just really sweet.
I feel like that is the most wholesome take you could have had for a Halloween celebration
Yeah.
in Barovia, considering everything else about the world.
I just love love.
And I
Just want the
love
community.
that.
Just want the community to come together, guys. We could do it.
Listen, I do think that there needs to be quite literally moments of light provided in
Yeah.
Barovia for there to be community, at least at one point throughout the year. So maybe Halloween being that one time that people
Mm-hmm.
are able to put aside any sort of paranoia and try to come together to bring a little light into the world. I do really like that idea. I had thoughts to add on to that for taking inspiration for how our real world religion has influenced Halloween's traditions. Taking
Mm-hmm.
some of the religions within Ravenloft and applying that to this celebration. So, my first thought was maybe some more of the religious Barovians who follow Ezra, the Mist Warden,
Yeah.
deity of the mist, with the elements of how death isn't the end within Barovia. It's kind of all over Ravenloft, but especially in Barovia with how common it is to lose people due to the horrors. And if you're aware of the reincarnation aspect, I tend to attribute that to Ezra. I just think it makes sense that if the mists are surrounding the domain and keeping everyone in there, that it makes sense that their soul, when they pass on, if they have one, goes up into the mists, and then that deity decides when does it get put back in. So I think this celebration and coming together to bring light to the world could also be a means to honor them, and kind of maybe ask for blessings for passing on to the next one or anyone who has passed in the year to protect their soul until they do get put into a new life and they get to start again. And then alternatively, because it's a light ceremony, the other religion that I think that this could pull in would be that of the Morning Lord, god of the dawn. That religion's a bit more, I feel like it's a harder sell in Barovia since the sun doesn't shine. You never actually get to see
Yeah.
the dawn, you know? It feels
Mm-hmm.
like it's a dying religion, and those who cling to it, it's probably more for comfort, and
Yeah.
they don't even know what the dawn even means anymore. They have no concept of that. So maybe with this being a festival of lights, that could be their way of spreading some sort of light once a year that they can pull their
Yeah.
resources to bring and make what they think the dawn is supposed to be.
That's really sweet.
So I do really like that. And then outside of bringing Barovian religion, I was thinking about offerings of blood or some sort of meat or something left to honor those who have died, probably outside of settlements, especially for those who have died and they know have risen as undead.
Yeah.
To just leave that to honor the bodies that were left behind. Maybe they think that their souls are still stuck in there because of the fact that they rose. But obviously, that being dangerous, I think those offerings would be left like in the middle of the woods, away from the walls, and then they go back within their settlements to have their light celebration, and maybe talk about those past loved ones that they probably both maybe find a comfort but also fear having to see their faces again because they didn't stay in the ground, unfortunately. But it'd be a way to try to help them by providing sustenance for what they would now consume.
That's sick and twisted, and I love it. That makes me sad, and I love that.
What, as it should, as it should. Listen, I just think about, not to get like anecdotal with a possible scenario, but like if someone who lives in Valaki's like daughter, like teenage daughter, got
Mm.
like charmed by a vampire from the castle, whether it was Strahd or someone else from within, and then was turned into a spawn. And now every once in a while she wanders back to Valaki's walls where she's not allowed, tries to get in, desperately wants to see her parents, and the best that they can do for her for this semblance of who she once was is to give blood once a year. I'm just like, that's just so emotional and heartbreaking and feeds into like the gothic horror of Barovia, especially with like a light celebration in the background as there's
Yeah.
parents who are just sobbing knowing that their kids
People
out there.
missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's tough.
Mhm. So we're going to leave Barovia and we're going to go to another B, Domain of Dread. We're going to go into Borca. Now, Borca, if you're not familiar, just to keep it brief for those at home, is a domain of, I would say, kind of like, I can't remember what the exact word is in Van Richten's guide, but it's kind of like of decadence, but botanical horror. It's got a lot of classism in it, where the nobles are treated almost like celebrities in such a way that the common class like try to imitate them in ways that are quite concerning, if that makes sense. So what do you got for how you think Borkins celebrate Halloween?
I've cooked up something devious for you.
Beautiful. I can't wait.
Just a little treat. So, famously, I hate capitalists, but I think that the fucking horror potential that they have is fantastic, and I really wanted to highlight that
Mhm.
in this one. So I decided what better celebration than one that has been absolutely taken and bastardized by the rich.
Beautiful, yeah.
Um so it's sort of what I've cooked up here is that there is a creation of sort of skull items, either like making like little sugar skulls or like skull themed things,
Mhm.
because obviously some people do not have very much. So it's kind of just everyone's making do and making little skull items, kind of in the same vein of the we're all the same in death mentality, where
Mhm.
this was in my mind started as kind of like a punk rock resistance movement of like fuck the rich, we're all the same in death, and that it slowly morphed and was really popularized within kind of like that lower class area, and they still have like sort of the genuine practice of it, making skulls, kind of enjoying the process of making these crafts with whatever they have,
Mhm.
and like that small luxury of like whatever you have, kind of wasting it to make something for fun. And that the wealthy have truly bastardized it and just gone like, I'm gonna make the most decadent,
Yeah.
ridiculous skull in the world that's gonna be made of like gold or whatever crazy materials in like a large scale to indicate their wealth,
Yeah.
essentially. Like when you go see like a big light show or whatever around Halloween time, I feel like it's that. Where it's just like, I'm just showing off for
Yeah.
whatever. And they're truly trying to outdo their neighbors and like flex their wealth and like just really showing off their skulls, totally missing the point of like, we're all the same in death, right?
Uh to bring in our Ravenloft religions again. So the establishment of the church and worship of Ezra actually started in Borca, started in the capital of Levkarest, I think is how you say it. So it's got the big cathedral of Ezra in the center there, and probably has the most organized religion to follow the deity of the mist. So I would argue that maybe some of the more pious Borkans, poor and wealthy alike, maybe leave their skulls as offerings to Ezra for good luck and blessings and celebration and that sort of thing. And maybe perhaps again to thank her for shepherding the souls from one life to the next. But then, of course, also leaning into what you said, the wealthy probably do it to try to outdo one another, to be Ezra's favored, be better in the eyes of the church sort of thing, where the poor might actually be doing it for worship for the deity, you know? So I think that would be a good religious aspect to add in to Borcan culture for this holiday. And then I wanted to add that for wealthier areas, again, with the expectation for all of the noble houses, they are all expected to like host like a ball or a banquet or some other like grand event like once a year, if not multiple times a year, and they trade off and are constantly trying to prove how much wealthier and prettier and influential they are, to where I think that they would assign someone to host a Halloween ball or banquet in which maybe they get to showcase to each other these skulls that they made out of gold and platinum and diamond and all these gaudy things, wear over the top costumes to flaunt their wealth and prove like, oh well, yeah, okay, you have fake little vampire teeth in, I got these implanted, I changed my teeth for the rest of my life for this, or something like that, just to prove that they have more money and more control over the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also just really like how this isn't really adding anything, but this is more just commenting on like both of our contributions of like, I like how this version of the holiday can represent the commercialization and the capitalism of what's happened to Halloween in our real world, and how it kind of, not that Halloween's not still fun, I mean obviously we're doing this, but like we did lose something in the process of this, right? So we're seeing that reflected in Borca.
We say as we wear costumes that are clearly not homemade. Like, I didn't make this.
This came from Spirit Halloween.
We enjoy the privileges of capitalism, unfortunately.
We do live in a society.
Real. Yeah, I loved that commentary. I thought that was really a lovely thing to highlight in a horror campaign.
Listen, sometimes you gotta make sure that the BBEG is capitalism.
Somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it. And Borca sets you up for it. Oh, one last thing. Just because I don't think I mentioned this about Borca when I gave the little rundown before we started talking about Halloween. Borca is the only domain with 2 Dark Lords, technically.
What?
Oh, did I not tell you that either?
Sorry. Okay, for context, I know next to nothing about, I guess, the entirety of Ravenloft, really, because I want to experience it as I play it.
That's
but
fair.
What? I thought that there could only kind of be one. How are there 2?
So typically there is only one. There's 2 here because I don't want to spoil the full story for you.
Okay.
Because I am interested in doing a Borca campaign at some point, and maybe you'll be interested in it as well.
I might be there.
But there's 2. There's Ivana Baritzi and there's Ivan Delisnia. They're cousins. And their backstory is basically the horrible deed that they did that earned them being pulled into the mist to be tortured with all of the other people in this country together for the rest of eternity, happened on the same night at the same time. So then they both got pulled in. Since they were already from the same area, they just put the cousins together because they also hate each other. Because they're rivals for basically the title of being the best noble in Borca. Essentially, there was like a plot to like combine the Delisnia and Baritzi name through marriage, which is why they're cousins. But the plot never fully came together, so now they're still competing. Where Ivan kind of gets everything handed to him, but he's very childish and can't let go of just basically being a little boy, even though he's a
Typical
full-grown
man.
man. Yes. Whereas Ivana fought so hard to try to get everything she wanted and not going to be wasn't going to be handed the title because they saw
Mm.
her as just a helpless girl instead, and were going to name Ivan the true heir, so to speak. So they have a
And
rivalry where she's constantly still seen, despite having more power and being more capable, as being a naive woman that you can't trust, whereas Ivan still gets everything, but neglects everything and just wants to play games.
okay, now I don't know anything wrong that she's done, but I'm on her side. I think
Mass
women's
murder.
wrongs. Um, hmm.
I mean, there's sometimes that we can't support Matt. She's one of my favorite Dark Lords, I'm gonna be honest, so.
Well, yes. And I think that she should girl boss her way through, I guess, mass murder, whatever the consequences of that are. And then on the other side, I'll be there with her.
There's more to it than that, since I've tried to be brief and vague to not fully spoil it for you. But I do also like the idea with the rivalry within the aristocratic system, but
Mm.
also between these two cousins who are the Dark Lords, like what that could turn
Yeah.
these Halloween parties into as well.
Yeah.
It could be, playing grounds of the elite, trying to get one up on each other through the means of just, oh, it's a party.
Yeah. Heidi Klum's Halloween party.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah. No, I know it.
Well, I think that does it for Borca.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't say that this Borca had two Dark Lords. I mean, our last domain that we want to tell you guys what our ideas are for celebrating Halloween is going to be in Kartakass. Kartakass is our Bard domain, which made me very excited when this one was voted for.
Really? Oh, I'm
um,
glad.
so Kartakass it's basically kind of like a big stage. There's a lot
Mm.
of werewolf lycanthropy throughout it,
Mhm.
no matter what settlement you're in or if you're in the woods or anything, because the whole twist on lycanthropy, which I find very fascinating, it's about feeding the hunger of needing to be the best, to hone your skills as a creative, to do that next big project. You can't stop or it like overtakes you, but then also you're feeding it by never being able to stop, sort of thing. Like even the birds and the trees are trying to outsing one another. The flowers are trying to bloom better than the others, sort of thing. Like it goes throughout the entire setting. And our Dark Lord is one of my favorite Dark Lords, Harkin Lucas. He is a bard who wants to be famous, but no one can remember his name. He's immediately forgettable. He's very talented. He puts on the greatest show, but then as soon as you're like without a earshot, you either forget his name, forget the tune, or you think like, "Oh, wait, you're the guy who wrote that old ditty? Like I didn't know you were still making music or something like that." Like that would be like how he gets interacted with. So that's like his curse is to always never make it. Like his children are more famous than him, and his daughter literally has copied his style to a T in his like the biggest name in Kartakass, or at least one of them.
Whoa.
So, with the performance and show of it all in mind, how are we celebrating Halloween?
New York's hottest club. That's it all.
Yes, uh-huh.
Bloodbaths.
All right, yeah.
Freaking out. Giving into the hunger. I decided that this one should be dangerous. I decided that if there's anywhere where we will go into sort of a mass hysteria frenzy and really give into the darkest parts of us, it would be this one. Because what are performers if not angsty and desperate to let the beast out? This one feels as dangerous as like a high school theater after show cast party.
You are correct.
Terrifying.
Mhm.
And they're all trying to outdo each other, and I think that's the big thing is
This is a domain where every single person takes Halloween way too seriously.
Yes.
They're way too into it.
For this concept of a celebration, I truly thought, okay, so it's gonna be crazy costumes. It's going to be the most extravagant costumes you've ever seen. They're going to be grotesque. They're going to be functional. They're going to be terrifying and truly performances all night long, whether it be like belting out a tune or like I don't know, if you're a freak actor and you maybe want to kind of give a really terrifying performance of you, I don't know, doing something crazy, probably that all night. I think everyone's loud. I think it is like the loudest night period.
No one's sleeping.
No one's sleeping during this night. I think it is an all night party where everyone is around. I had originally thought of kind of like it being more of a like, well, if you're just like a person, how would you handle this? And that would be just kind of like, well, blend in, like try and be as convincing as possible to blend in kind of with everybody else and like gather together because maybe there's strength in numbers and like don't stand out too much. So since everyone's being crazy, you got to be crazy too. I think I also kind of thought of like, well, if you're just like a normal person here dealing with this, kind of the concept of so how like in Japan it's very traditional to say like moshi moshi when you answer the phone so that you're not like, you know, that you're not speaking to a trickster spirit. And kind of in the same vein, the phrase like trick or treat being something that is like constantly repeated all night when you're like trick or treating. Maybe there's some sort of like phrase that they use of like and I'm not gonna rip your throat out because I'm going crazy mode right now. But I don't know. I think this one's a bad idea for them to do, and I like that. I like that it's dangerous.
I think people do forget how dangerous bards can be. Not that everyone has to technically be classed as a bard, but like how dangerous like in cutthroat performers can be if you haven't been involved with like groups of people who do that. So like I also agree that it just makes sense to me that this is the one big celebration that absolutely just goes bad and is dangerous to attend, but everyone does. Because to me, I feel like this could also be a celebration in which, like, all of the masks slip. We all know why you're here. We all know that we're these deep, hungry monsters. These creative ambitions are driving us to do things that are not moral in many different cases, different scenarios, right? So just getting to go crazy to let the monster loose, the bloodbath begins. Like, it's kind of like the most honest. It's not a performance anymore. It's just pure honesty, letting that take over sort of thing, which could also be seen as a way to, since this matters so much to, oh, I don't know what to call the people who live here. Kartakass, I think would be probably correct, but I didn't look that one up.
Kartakass.
But since like that creative passion and the joy of making things, but also obviously the hunger, right? I feel like since that's so important to these people, that it's another way to honor that hunger of just like, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to hide. There's a monster inside all of them, and that's okay. Let's embrace it once a year.
Yeah.
Let's just fully let it loose and accept everyone for the monster that they might be inside.
Is this the purge? Did we just do the purge? Shit. Wait.
You know, I was just about to say it's. Well, I don't.
It's a little bit the purge, huh? I didn't think about that.
It's a little bit the purge. You really want that star roll? This is the night. This is the night.
Act your heart out, kid.
It's kind of in that vein, but also a little leaving the purge territory we accidentally tiptoed into. But I could also see that if you do die during this Halloween special festival party.
Hold on. No, well, because and I'll be there with you. Yes, when you're playing this game, it would be the Halloween special. And fuck you for saying anything different.
Thank you for backing up my words.
Yeah. If anyone comes for Locke in the comments, I'll find you. I won't do shit. I won't do anything.
I was almost protected for a moment. But I think it would be an honor if you died during this. Like, I don't think that would be the goal, right? The goal would be to survive and fuel your ambition again for the next year. But, like, if you did die, your story is gonna get told. The amount of, like, fuel for songs and poems and plays and any sort of special effects work that could be inspired by what someone witnesses that night if you die during that, you kind of get to be immortal in the fact that you inspired someone else's work and your story might get told for centuries or who knows how long, right? So, like, I think that it would be, like, what are the words I'm looking for? I almost feel like there'd be, like, almost like a little bit of, like, a goodbye dinner with people you actually care about before attending the party because you know
Yeah.
that someone could die, but also, again, I don't think anyone's thinking it's the end of the world.
No. That's also good though because it is like sating your hunger prior to the event in like the hopes that maybe you don't. If you have loved ones, you're sating your hunger in advance of the event so that in the hopes that you don't
Yeah.
give into the hunger as much, maybe.
God, I really love that that one's the bloodbath.
It
And
just
what
is the it seemed like the nicest one and I was like, no, actually these people need to be in danger right now.
Yeah, though literally, I think that's why, at least like when people talk about fifth edition Ravenloft, I don't hear about anyone talking about Kartakass, but I think it is such a violent domain.
Yes.
On the surface, it doesn't seem to be, but I think it truly is like one of the darker domains because of what the whole concept about lycanthropy is.
There's
Oh,
so many theater kids who play D&D who certainly have heard of Ravenloft and the Domains of Dread. And folks, if you're not if you're not doing this, what are you doing? Cuz you know how scary theater kids are. You have
no.
firsthand experience. Write that shit.
I feel like that was a good one to end on
Yeah.
the bloodiest one. You know, I've been asking all of my guests a personal about their character. I realized I had to clarify because I was like, oh, he's gonna
It's
make a
like
face as soon
about
as I
me.
say that. It could be about you, but like, okay, out of this Halloween celebrations that we talked
Yeah.
about, which one would you most enjoy maybe taking part in? Or that your
Oh,
character, if you would rather it be about your character that you're currently playing.
gosh. See, this is tough. I feel like for me, the one that resonated the most and the one I was the most excited about was actually Borca. I am a huge community person and I love crafts, and there's truly nothing I love more than like a night of coming together to craft something and
Yeah.
spend time with people. And like that one was really kind of in the vein of like I would get down on this. Like this is kind of my jam.
Okay, okay. That was not the one I thought you were going to say, but also it does totally make sense. It does really make sense.
Absolutely. What about you? Which one strikes your fancy?
Honestly, I think it's Barovia's. I really like the
Okay.
idea of the Festival of Candlelights and coming together in that way. The potential like darkness outside of leaving blood left out for a loved one, the feelings of grief of having to do that, but then holding a candle with everyone who's still like of the living. I don't know. That
Yeah.
just it was such a good idea, not even in the realm of what I was thinking of for Barovia. So when you suggested that, I was immediately like, oh my god, give that to me. That's
Hell
for
yeah.
my campaign now. Thank you.
Oh, hell yeah. Well,
But
awesome. What an honor. Thank you for having me on. I came with receipts, I came with
mhm,
citations,
you
and I
did.
hope that everyone's walking away a little bit more prepared for their Halloween celebrations.
Yes. Go out, celebrate Halloween, both in your everyday life and in your Ravenloft campaigns. Take some inspiration from what we suggested if you're running anything in any of these domains. Maybe it'll inspire you for some of the other ones if you happen to be in any of the ones we did not mention, because there are so many. So many. But yes, and thank you, Monty, once again for joining me. And thank you again for doing the amount of research that you did, bringing the receipts. They'll all be in the description below, by the way, if anyone wants to read anything that was provided. And I don't know, subscribe if you enjoyed this series. Let me know if you did like Ravenloft Fright Night, since this is the last episode of the season. And if you guys did enjoy this, I will be sure to make it an annual thing. But I won't know that if you don't subscribe and like the videos so that I see the response of, yes, I should do this again next year.
Do it, because if you don't, I'll know and I'll find you.
We know how empty that thread is.
What?
All right, thank you all for watching. Have a happy Halloween. And I'll
Happy
see you guys
Halloween.
next time.